Welcome back. Welcome to the Engineering Mechanics lecture series organized by Pimpri Chinchwad College of Engineering and Research, Ravet, Pune. Last lecture we just discussed introduction to the subject of engineering mechanics, and we were discussing force as a vector quantity and as a vector what are its various aspects, and we discussed that magnitude, direction and line of action are invariant aspects, whereas point of action is a variable aspect. So what we mean by that, why these are invariants, why this is variable, we are going to see, we are going to discuss through a couple of illustrations. For example, this is a rigid body on which 10 Newton force is acting. Magnitude is 10 Newtons. If I change this 10 Newton magnitude to 20 Newton magnitude on the same rigid body, the effect on the body will be different. If we are talking about acceleration of that body due to the application of external force, definitely on the same mass, on the same rigid body, if you apply double the magnitude of force, you will have double the acceleration. So 10 Newton cannot be same as 20 Newton. That means if I change the magnitude, the force cannot be the same because its effect on the body is different. In the same way, in second example, I am applying 10 Newtons rightwards, whereas here I am applying 10 Newtons leftwards. So I have kept magnitude same, but I have changed the direction. Do you suppose effect on the body will be same? No, certainly not. Probably the magnitude of acceleration will be same. In fact, it has to be same. However, this body will accelerate rightwards, this body will accelerate leftwards. That means the effect is totally different, in a way totally opposite. So if you change the direction, the force is no more the same, it's a different force. So your direction is invariant. It is associated with force and you can't change it. If you change magnitude, if you change direction, you are changing the quantity, you are changing the force, you are talking about a different force. Similarly, line of action. This is something we have not seen in our school days or junior college level, that even line of action is an invariant aspect. You cannot change line of action of given force. The effect on the body is different. For example, on this rigid body, this force is having line of action passing through center of mass of this body. Such a force whose line of action is passing through center of mass of the body will produce pure translation in the body. As against that, you are observing that magnitude of force is same, that is say 20 Newtons. Direction is also same, that is say rightwards. And what is really in fact changing is the line of action. Earlier it was passing through centroid, now it is no more passing through centroid, it is eccentric, it is away from centroid or center of mass, centroid or center of mass. You will observe that such a force whose line of action does not pass through center of mass of the rigid body would produce translation as well as rotation. The kind of motion the rolling wheels of a vehicle are undergoing. It is translation as well as turning, rotation. So, if I change the line of action of force, I observe a different consequence, a different effect on the body. That is why I say that even line of action is an invariant. So, whenever a force is defined, it is defined with magnitude, direction, and line of action. You cannot touch, you cannot change any of these aspects because then the effect on the body will change. it will be a different force, it will have a different consequence. Now I am saying that point of action is a variable aspect. You can vary it provided you have kept the earlier three aspects same, invariant. What do I mean by that? So that is being shown in this illustration. Just observe that this is a rigid body on which a force of magnitude F is acting. This force is having definite magnitude F, definite direction and even definite line of action. The only thing that I can change if I wish to is point of action A, B, C, D, etc. What I am trying to convey is this force originally acting at A. If I transmit to B but along same line of action with same magnitude and same direction, I will observe that the effect on the body is just the same, consequence is same. If I transmit it to C, if I transmit it to D, even if I transmit it to E, the consequence, the effect on the rigid body of the application of this force is going to be same. So keeping magnitude, direction and line of action same, I am able to transmit a given force from one point to another point for the sake of analysis. I need to do it because I am solving certain engineering problem and it is convenient for me to do so. That's why I am taking F from A to B or to C or to D. It may be the situation that I need to do it. Yes, I am allowed to do it because force acting at A or at B or at C will have same effect on the body. It will be the same force, it will have same consequence. That is why we are seeing that a point of action is a variable aspect. You can vary point of action. That is possible keeping those invariants same. And that is theorem of transmissibility of force. You can transmit a given force from one point to another provided it is convenient for you to do so in solving your problem, your engineering problem, and provided you are keeping magnitude, direction and line of action same. For example, just observe this cylinder, a circular roller or cylinder which is resting in this V-shaped groove. I have shown the forces which are responsible for its state of rest, its equilibrium. The self-weight is gravity force, normal reaction from one of the planes, normal reaction from the second plane. Now what am I observing? That reaction RA and reaction RB, they are acting at A point and B point, whereas my center of gravity is where weight is acting, gravity force is acting. Now if I want to find out these angles or if I want to analyze the three forces together, is it not convenient for me to transmit this force from A point to C point and B point to C point? Yes. If the forces are acting concentric at C point, RA as well as RB, it is definitely going to be very convenient and very easy for me to imagine the situation, to calculate angles, to consider equilibrium, Lami's theorem, things like that. You have heard of these terms, so I am using them freely. I am of course going to introduce later at the appropriate time. So am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to take this reaction from A point to C point? Yes, because of theorem of transmissibility. I can transmit this force keeping its magnitude, direction and line of action same from A point to C point. It will have same effect on the body, so I am not violating the given situation or the given force system. So that is our theorem of transmissibility, and that's why we say point of action is a variable aspect, but magnitude, direction and line of action are invariant aspects, as is clear from these illustrations. Now naturally the question arises that if theorem of transmissibility is true and so useful, is it having any limitations? Can I always apply it, or there are some limitations? Yes, definitely there are one or two very important limitations that we should know, otherwise we might end up applying it at a wrong situation. First limitation is this force F, which is acting at A point, can I transmit it to F point? See, I am keeping magnitude same, direction same, even line of action same. I am only changing point of action. So can I transmit it to point F? Certainly not. And the reason being, point F is not physically connected to this rigid body. So the moment I cross E point, the force is no more acting on that body, because the points beyond E are not physically connected to this body. So obviously one of the limitations is you can apply transmissibility to any suitable point or for any suitable point, provided that point is physically connected to our given rigid body. So for this reason, if at all I am employing some such link here, a rigid body, another rigid specimen or rigid member, if I am linking to this original rigid body, yes, then I can transmit this force from here to F point, because it is still physically connected with the same rigid body. That is possible. So the first limitation is that the point you are transmitting your given force to should be physically connected to that rigid body on which originally the force is acting. Quite easy to understand, quite obvious. The second limitation is very interesting, and it is about the deforming force. Just observe here, this is a deformable body, that means elastic body, let's say spring, and I have defined 2 points. One is the free end A of the spring, and another point is roughly the midpoint, somewhere along the length of the spring, that is point B. What will happen if I apply force at A? So that is what I have shown here. When I apply force at end A, the entire spring gets compressed, the entire spring gets deformed, and probably this is the effect of the force that I am applying at end A, which has shifted from A point to A prime point. There is a deformation, there is a shift of point of action. But what I am observing is, overall the spring has undergone a uniform deformation, uniform compression. Instead of that, the same force, if I apply at B point, using wrongly the transmissibility, because I have studied that force can be transmitted from A point to B point, and it is connected with the same rigid body, associated with the same rigid body. So quite misinterpreting, if I apply this force instead of at A, at B point, see the consequence that I am trying to show in the second illustration. Do you make out the difference? Do you see the difference? Yes, it is quite obvious that when I apply the force at B point, the compressive force, only this much portion of the spring will undergo compression. The remaining AB portion, which has not been acted upon by our force, will simply travel, will simply translate towards the left, because the remaining half is undergoing compression. So consequence will look somewhat like this, that B has got shifted to B prime, only this portion of the spring is compressed, remaining portion is not deformed, it is in its natural state only. So the consequence is quite different. Here the entire spring is giving you resistance. Here the stresses are developed in the entire material body, whereas here the resistance is offered only by half the body. The stresses are generated only in half the body. Remaining body is relaxed naturally. So definitely consequence of applying force at A, which is seen here, and consequence of applying force at B, which is shown here, they are completely different. Then you may ask me, then what about transmissibility? So that is what I am trying to say. The limitation of transmissibility theorem is that you cannot apply theorem of transmissibility to the deforming force. The theorem is limited only to the rigid bodies, only to the accelerating force. If you apply transmissibility to a deforming force acting on a deformable body, that transmissibility will not work, because when you change the point of action of a deforming force, the consequence on the elastic body is totally different. So for a deforming force acting on a deformable body, force at A is not same as force at B. But for a rigid body acted upon by an accelerating external force, force at A is quite same as force at B, quite same as force at C, so on and so forth. So I hope you have understood why these are invariants and point of action is variable aspect through these illustrations, theorem of transmissibility and its use, its application, its limitation shown here as well as here. So in our next lecture, we will take the discussion of these forces ahead. Thank you for joining us. See you.